restoration being restored back into my body as I sat there and listened to the judge say the words that ultimately gave me my life back. It was the best thing that I've ever heard. It was the most amazing feeling that I've ever felt. But it was also bittersweet to see that it took an entire 10 years of my life in order for someone to finally listen to the truth.
So this is so personal for you, and you have paid very close attention to what's happened with this Brock Turner rape case. I mean, knowing what you've been through, what was your reaction when you heard what happened to this young woman and that he got 6 months?
I was disgusted, plain and simple, appalled. And I'm just Brian Banks, I'm just a guy like everybody else who watches the news, and we get caught up on current events. I feel that the judge in this case totally mishandled this situation, and something has to be done about it. My heart goes out to the victim in this situation. I just feel that there's been a huge disservice to her. She's been completely undermined, and after going through something so horrific as what she experienced, for it all to conclude with Brock only receiving a 6-month sentence, our system has failed her, and our system has failed our society as well.
You have said that you say the judge mishandled this. I've read a number of your quotes saying this really boiled down to privilege. How do you mean?
Well, it definitely boils down to privilege, but I think it's different facets of privilege. It's not just privilege by race, but it's also privilege by money. What's your economical background? What's your lifestyle? What's your upbringing? The sad thing about this is that Brock was sentenced based on his lifestyle, based on his upbringing, and because of that, the conclusion was prison would have a negative impact on him. But what about the children I'm often talking about, who have no choice into where they're born and who they're born to, and they may not have a fit parent, and they grow up in a bad neighborhood, and they don't get a fair education, and somewhere down the line they end up committing a crime, and when they stand in front of that judge sees all the negative. That's all they see when they do this.
Did you feel like that?
A young kid. I felt like that, and even less. The fact that I was there for something that I didn't even do, and that no one paid any mind to even pay attention and try and find out the facts. I was pushed along through court as if I didn't even exist. I was a number, and there were times where I would walk into that courtroom, and I would literally look around the courtroom to see who would lock eyes with me, and every time no one would. And I, come to the conclusion after talking to so many people, it's a job. You sit there in the courtroom, and while someone's risking their entire life in prison, the people inside the courtroom, they're thinking about what they're going to do when they get off at 5 p.m. What are they going to cook when they get home? So sitting there in that room and feeling all alone and feeling like the world is coming down on you at the age of 16, and also, let me say, being tried as an adult. I think the real reason why I'm here today is really to focus the issue on the unfairness in sentencing in America. How someone can receive a 10-year sentence for a drug offense, but 6 months for a blatant rape offense.
Amen.
What about this father, Brian?
Preach.
What he said about, 20 minutes of action, translating to years from his son's life?
I really have no words for that. I can't believe that even came out of his mouth. I don't know the man personally. I do know that parents would do and say anything at some point to try and save their child. But here's a situation where your son has to face the music. He committed the most criminalist act that you can do upon a woman. And I, unfortunately, had to live with the consequences of those actions, and I didn't even commit them. So to see somebody else actually commit it, be caught in the act, and somehow is deemed unfit for prison, but a 16-year-old kid was deemed fit for prison, it's just not adding up to me.
I respect you also for your compassion for this young woman who penned this extraordinary 12-page letter that she read aloud in court, that despite what happened to you and lives, years shaved off of your life behind bars, you still are compassionate towards her and what does happen each and every day in this country. I appreciate you coming on. I thank you. Thank you for saying that. Brian Banks, pleasure.